Puppy Chow from '89. Sometimes I don't think the Americans realize just how wild and zoinked their creations are, and by all accounts, this recipe seems to be a fine example of that. Start with a 12-ounce box of Chex. What kind of name is Chex? They're rather geometric. Also, I don't know which one is the right Chex. You guys got rice, wheat, corn, gas, diesel? Melt together a quarter cup of butter, cup of semi-sweet chalky chips, and a cup of peanut butter. But Dylan, you say, what if I'm allergic to peanuts? Repent. You and your ancestors have obviously done something to deserve such a malady. Once everything's melted together, add it to the cereal. Mix to coat. Oh my goodness. Then all of this gets coated in powdered sugar. Doesn't say how much, just says to eyeball it into a bag, scoop some in, and shake. What kind? What? It looks like I microwaved a squirrel again. I'm rather sure you could just add powdered sugar to the bowl, but this must be some ritualistic American practice. Ooh, whoa. Now in the States, this seems to be a popular Christmas gift. Just like my books. Oh, it's good. They're hollow. Oh, jumping gingerbread. Forget the bowl of nuts at Christmas. Just have a bowl of this. Toll House Inn chocolate chip cookies from '38. Miss Ruth Wakefield in the state of Massachusetts is to thank for the nation's most favoritist cookie. It is a legend and one also found in my new cookbook, Baking Across America. Newsflash! There he goes again. Dropping in May everywhere books are sold. Open for pre-order. Start by creaming a cup of butter with 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar and 3/4 of a cup of sugar. You can cream using a wooden spoon, a mixer, or unmitigated arousal. Next up, we got the 2 egg beaten vanilla cookie. Dry ingredients are 2 1/4 cups of flour, teaspoon of soda, and a full teaspoon of salt. Now for 14 ounces of semi-sweet bar chocolate, which is 3.5 of these. But that's so much chocolate. And chop it all up. Fun fact, these are the cookies that invented chocolate chips. They didn't exist. Get it? And then all chocolate. Look at that. Now, if you like them crispy, you can skip the parchment and just grease your baking sheet. 375 for about 10 minutes. A buttery, crisp shell surrounding gooey chocolate. This is the cookie, the standard by which all others are judged. But frankly, these are what you leave out for Santa. Marvelous. A snowball cake from '66. 'Tis the season for balls of snow, so making a cake of one seems apropos. I'm a poet. And this is George. We start with a box mix of devil's food cake. It's called devil's food because it's the opposite of angel food. In goes a cup of water, boring, 1/3 cup of oil, American, and 3 egg keef. Oh, you better watch out for George. Next, beat 8 ounces of cream cheese with another eggy and just a bit of sugar. Why? I don't know. Then grease a 3-quart bowl. What? Are we baking this in here? You don't typically bake in a bowl. Spooning the filling in the center. And you can get baked by one. 350 for about 1 hour and 10. Well, she's puckered up a bit. It's a memory. Small box of vanilla pudding. This one's French. It's given up. What a surprise. Dusty. A cup of cold moo juice. 1/3 cup powdered sugar. Do a little whisk. Top of Cool Whip. Apply to the cake as best you can. La, la, la. Coconut, snowy, and a cherry to top your winter cake. There's a nip in the air. That's the cream cheese. Yum. It is fun and whimsical. I like the snowball. Yeah. A mystery pumpkin pie from '78. Now, I love a good mystery. Like, where do the bugs go in the winter? And why are birds? Today's mystery is a pumpkin pie without pumpkin. Start with 30 ounces of navy beans. Oh, God. Are you in the holiday spirit yet? I'm not. Pop them into a chopper. You go ahead and save your bean juice for something deplorable. And a 1/2 cup of evaporated milk. It's milk with less water. Safety first. This is the worst thing I've ever seen. Next, we beat it. Oh, God. 3 eggs. Beaten with 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar. You ever just want sweet, milky beans? This cookbook would believe so. And it is just called cookbook. 1/4 cup of melted butter, pinch of salt, and a tablespoon of pumpkin pie spice. I've actually got some here from 1979. Do you think it's still good? I mean, it's a bit nuanced. Then into the shell. No, I didn't make my own. This pie is made of beans. 350 for about 55 minutes. Just wait! Ooh, I don't know. It is surprisingly palatable. However, it's a pumpkin pie if the pie were meaty. The mystery that chews back. Sturdy. It's very chewy. A seafoam salad from '72. This here Midwest creation comes from a time where salads were lost in a deep, dark abyss. We start with a small box of lime jello. The abyss beckons, over which is poured 3/4 of a cup of boiling water. The lovely hue of 3 Mile Island green. In goes an 8-ounce can of crushed pineapple with the juice to the fridge. Next we quarter about a half cup of maraschino cherries. It's okay if your fingers turn pink. I'm told red 40 grants eternal life. Next, chop a pear. You know the idiom going pear-shaped? How do you think pears feel about that? Feel free to leave the skins on unless you're American. Now we beat 8 ounces of cream cheese. It seems to be getting worse. Slowly pour in the jello, whisking smooth each addition. I wouldn't call it smooth. In goes the fruit. Oh. And finally we fold in a whole tub of Cool Whip. I bet you saw this coming a mile away. What is in this bowl right now is beyond a classification. And chill. Good morning. Did you know I had a new book coming? You should check it out. It resembles foam insulation. As the kids would say, that's a lot. So sweet. At least the ingredients agree. Like there's no marshmallows or coconut. It's just pretty far removed from the world. Shortbread from 1950. So shortbread is one of those hard things to date. It fears commitment. But it's much older than 1950. This was apparently a new way to make it. We start with a cup of salted butter. As you all know, salted butter comes from salted cows. Now beat the daylights out of it. These old cookbooks would actually tell you to beat for like 400 or 500 strokes. Between you and me, I don't think I can last that long. Next up is a half cup of powdered sugar with more beating. Finally, 2 cups of flour, kneading together by hand. Once it comes together, we go ahead and roll it out. I can hear you say, Dylan, you're not chilling the dough. That's not right. Well, you go right, I'll go left. In both directions is a cookie, honey. At about 1/3 of an inch thick, you take your glass, or cookie cutter, if that's below you, and go, oh, that's good. 300 Fahrenheit for about 30 minutes. And while you roll these scraps out a second time, you can check out my second cookbook. Well, they're a good height and they're slab-sided, but are they shortbread? That's some buttery shortbread. Don't trust anyone who doesn't like shortbread. And if that's you, don't trust yourself. That's a good method for a top-tier cookie. What you're about to see was recorded in 2021, but never uploaded. I didn't do so because I feared many would think the star ingredient was dangerous. Rest assured, when used properly, it isn't. It's just unusual. Ammonia cookies from 1919. Yes, you've heard of baking powder and soda or yeast, but there's one leavening agent largely forgotten by time. Smelling salts. That's right, when placed under the nose, ammonium carbonate can be used to revive the unconscious. But to my surprise, it's also called baker's ammonia because it helps cookies to rise too, and the effect is apparently superior to everything else. Start with 1/2 pound of butter, plus 1 1/3 cups of sugar, teaspoon of almond extract, and a teaspoon of ammonia. Holy sh! I am awake now. I'm very awake. Come on! Smells so bad. In goes 2 cups of flour. Didn't know I was going to be baking with chemical weapons today. Cup of coconut. We're forming a disc to the fridge. This is safe, by the way. Heat activates and destroys the ammonia, so there's none left after baking. Before that, you just can't eat the dough and it smells like death. 300 degrees for 20 minutes. This is a book plug from the present. What? I have never had a cookie like this in my life. The taste is great, but it's the texture. The entire cookie is somehow soft and crispy, like a cloud of honeycomb, but I can't quite describe it. I'm absolutely floored. Spam, peanut butter, and chocolate chip cookies. I know you're thinking, this is fake. But not only is it real, it's current and on their website. We start with a can of Spam. Cut to 1/2-inch cubes, which I think is too big. Still a chance of sentience. Toss the Spam in a 1/4 cup of brown sugar. Sweetie meaty. And bake for 10 minutes at 425. 3/4 cup of butter. Cup of peanut butter. Cream together with 3/4 cup of brown sugar. And 3/4 cup sugar. You know, I don't mind this part. Never mind, the meat's done. 2 eggs and a teaspoon of Nilla. For the dry ingredients, 2½ cups of flour. A teaspoon each of floof powder. And soda. And a pinch of salt. Combine 2 cups of chalky chips and the Spam. This is just anomalous behavior. I'm feeling litigious. What is that? 16 minutes at 350. Then baking across America for moral support. Bad. It's not even the taste, which is subjective. It is the meat in a cookie. The meat. In a cookie, there should never be a measurable percentage of musculature. It's meat. A Georgia cracker salad from '91. What's a cracker salad, you ask? Any salad that I make. Start with a sleeve of saltines and crush. Dice a tomato. This knife is rather dull, like too many of life's conversations. Next is the green onions, 3 of them. Gotta wash them. At the risk of having an opinion online, let me say that scallions and green onions are the same thing. Now, spring onions are different. They are older and have a larger bulb, like this one right here. Now chop 2 hard-boiled eggies. You ever just keep hard-boiled eggs in your pocket? I advise against it. It seems to frighten people. Puppy, plus a cup and a half of mayonnaise. Why, yes, this is store brand. I had to use 2 eggs in this economy. Is this the whole jar? Ma'am, you would never. Of course. In goes this and the mayo. For a second, I forgot there were crackers. To let you know, this recipe is not in Baking Across America. It's for baking. This tastes a whole lot better than you'd think. But it's already getting soggy. This would be so good at a fish fry if you eat it like really fast. And ignore the jar of mayonnaise. Mississippi mud. Now, through Baking Across America, I've discovered the South does dessert particularly well. Butter! And you can't get much more southern than Mississippi. Right there. We start with 40 Oreos. Unlike certain forms of contraception, we are not discarding the filling. Keep it in and turn to crumbs. Melt 3/4 of a cup of butter. Fire! And mix with the crumbs. Butter! Press this into a 9x13. Grease your pan if you want, but there's so much butter it should be okay. Bake for 8 minutes at 350. Done! The filling is half a cup of cocoa, a cup of melted butter. That is a beautiful smell. Now we let that cool a bit while we beat 4 eggies. I'm now broke. Whisk. In goes 1 3/4 cups of sugar, a salt a pinch, and some vanilla. Ooh. 1 1/2 cups of flour, 2 cups of pecans. Love a good nut. This is essentially a gooey brownie, and we smooth over the crust. Now there's many ways to make Mississippi mud. You got pies, you got cakes, you got puddings. But this is my recipe for the best of them all. 350 for about 40 minutes. During the last 5 minutes, you're gonna sprinkle on 3 cups of mini marshmallows. Carefully. Ooh. I'm gonna show you something. Don't tell on me. While that cools, the last step needs 4 cups of powdered sugar, 2/3 of a cup of evaporated milk. You whisk it all in before a final half cup of melted butter. Layer on thick. Ooh, it's such a healthy and light dessert. Let this cool. Oh my goodness. That is thrilling. Guilty of 1 or 2 nutritional felonies, sure, but I don't mind death by chocolate. And Mississippi doesn't play around. The Benny wafers of Charleston. Does you know about the Carolinas? Reports would indicate there are 2 of them. We focus today on the southern one. Start with a cup of Benny seeds. Now there's nuance here, but you can consider Benny seeds and sesame seeds interchangeable. Pop them in a skillet. Fire! We're gonna toast these for about 3 minutes. You want the nuttiness like in your face. Creaming together a half cup of butter with a 1 1/4 cups of brown sugar. Next is 1 egg and a bit of vanilla. The dry ingredients include a cup of flour, a bit of salt, and for the floofers, a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. Combine and the cooled seeds. You say, Dylan, are those cookies made of sesame seeds? You bet your bottom dollar. Next, you're gonna want your tiniest scoop. These wafers are as old as the hills and are thanks to the Gullah people of the Low Country encompassing South Carolina. Bake at 375 for about 8 to 10 minutes. These and other tales in Baking Across America. Now you should be able to stack them, which means I've done something right. Oh, fantastic. They're nutty, they're sweet, they're not, but they are. There really is something magical about these. No chance you're just eating one. I have made more just for me.